She hugged you first. And the moment passed so fast, you didn't realize your nervous system just received a message your mind completely ignored. I want you to understand something most men are never taught to see. Hugs are not neutral. They are not casual, and they are almost never accidental when a woman initiates them. As a psychologist, I can tell you that physical contact is one of the highest risk signals a woman can send. She knows it changes the emotional temperature instantly. That's why when she hugs first, something has already shifted inside her long before her arms ever touched you. Men are trained to look for words, confessions, clear statements, but women communicate desire and trust through the body first. A hug is not about comfort. It's about testing safety, chemistry, and emotional permission all at once. When she initiates it, she's asking a question without speaking. How does it feel when I let you this close? Your body answered. Before your mouth ever could. Here's what most men miss. Women do not hug men they feel neutral about unless social pressure forces it. Neutrality avoids closeness. Indifference keeps distance. Initiated touch requires emotional motivation. When she stepped into your space, her nervous system had already decided you were not a threat. That alone puts you in a category most men never reach. But there's more. A hug is also a regulation move. Women hug first when their emotions are elevated and they want to anchor them. Excitement, relief, connection, even longing. She was grounding herself through you. That's not random. That's relational instinct. Pay attention to how she hugged you, because the details matter more than the act itself. Did her body lean in fully or just her shoulders? Did she release quickly or hesitate for half a second longer than necessary? That hesitation is where the truth lives. The body doesn't lie in pauses. When she lingers, she's allowing herself to feel something she normally controls. And here's the uncomfortable truth most men never hear. When you brush off her initiating a hug as just being friendly, you train her nervous system to pull back. Women test emotional safety in increments. If her first step is met with emotional blindness, she doesn't step forward again. She adapts. She cools. She reclassifies you. This is why some men say, "She seemed into me, then she just changed." No, she didn't change. She responded. The hug was an opening, not a guarantee, an invitation to awareness. A woman hugging you first is not a promise of anything physical. It's something more important. It's evidence of emotional permission. It means in that moment she felt safe enough to let her guard down and curious enough to see what would happen next. And if you missed it, don't feel ashamed. You were never taught to read this language, but now that you know, you can never unsee it. The next time it happens, you won't rush it. You won't freeze. You'll understand that something meaningful just crossed an invisible line, and that awareness alone changes how she feels when she pulls away. What matters even more than the hug itself is what happened inside her before it. Women don't act on impulse the way men imagine. By the time she hugged you first, she had already replayed the moment in her mind. She anticipated how close she'd be to you. She felt the vulnerability before you ever did. That's why the hug carried weight you didn't recognize. Here's the truth most men resist. A woman's body moves only after her emotions have decided. She doesn't wake up and think, "I'll hug him today." Her nervous system reaches a threshold. Safety plus attraction plus emotional openness. When those three align, touch happens. The hug is the result, not the cause. Many men assume women initiate hugs when they're feeling weak or needy. That's wrong. Most women hug first when they feel internally strong enough to risk connection. It's not desperation, it's confidence mixed with curiosity. She wasn't leaning on you, she was stepping toward you. And here's where psychology gets uncomfortable. When a woman hugs you first, she is also watching how you receive her. Not what you do with your arms, but what happens in your presence afterward. Do you become awkward? Do you retreat emotionally? Do you overcompensate with forced confidence or jokes? Her brain is scanning for emotional maturity, not dominance. A grounded man doesn't rush to interpret the hug as a green light for escalation. He lets the moment breathe. That restraint signals safety. Safety is what turns attraction into attachment. When you don't immediately try to use the hug for validation, you become unpredictable in a way that feels secure rather than threatening. Another thing men miss is this. Women remember how they felt after the hug more than the hug itself. If she walked away feeling calmer, warmer, or more seen, her bond with you deepened. If she felt exposed, misread, or emotionally alone afterward, she subconsciously distances herself. This is why some women initiate touch once and never again. Not because they weren't interested, but because the emotional aftermath didn't feel right. The body opened, but the moment wasn't held. There's also a protective element. Women often hug first to assess emotional reciprocity without verbal risk. Words can be denied or argued with. Touch cannot. If you responded with presence rather than pressure, you passed a test you didn't know was happening. Understand this clearly. She was not asking you to make a move. She was asking you to stay regulated while close. That's a skill, one most men never develop. And if you're wondering why she didn't say anything afterward, it's because women expect men to notice without needing explanation, not to act, to notice. Awareness is intimacy to her nervous system. When you learn to read these moments without panicking or fantasizing, you become rare. You stop chasing signs and start understanding signals. That shift alone changes how women feel around you, even when nothing physical happens again. Because once a woman experiences emotional safety in your presence, she carries it with her, and that memory pulls stronger than any line, any tactic, any move. If you felt confused after she hugged you first, that confusion wasn't weakness. It was your intuition waking up late. Now it doesn't have to sleep through the moment again. There's a reason that hug stayed in your mind longer than you expected. Your body recognized something before your logic could catch up. When a woman initiates a hug, she creates a shared emotional imprint. That imprint doesn't fade quickly because it bypasses rational filters. It goes straight into memory tied to feeling, not thought. Here's what most men never realize. A woman's first initiated hug is often a boundary test, disguised as closeness, not a sexual boundary, an emotional one. She's unconsciously asking, will he respect the moment for what it is, or will he try to turn it into something it's not? How you answer that question determines whether her attraction stabilizes or collapses. If you immediately chase the feeling, text more, seek reassurance, or try to recreate the moment, her nervous system senses pressure. Pressure kills safety, and safety is the container attraction needs to grow. When a man tries to lock in a moment, instead of letting it exist, he communicates insecurity without saying a word. But if you stayed calm, if you didn't change your behavior afterward, if you didn't become colder or more eager, something powerful happened inside her. Her brain registered you as emotionally consistent. Consistency is rare, and rarity amplifies value. Women don't fall for men who perform well in moments. They attach to men who remain steady after moments. That's why the aftermath of the hug mattered more than the hug itself. There's another layer that's difficult for men to accept. Sometimes a woman hugs first because she's fighting her own restraint. She feels something growing and wants to measure it without feeding it too fast. The hug is a controlled release, a way to let emotion out without losing control. If you misinterpret that as a signal to accelerate, she pulls back. Not because she changed her mind, but because you moved faster than her internal pacing. Women trust men who can match emotional rhythm, not men who rush toward outcomes. This is why emotionally intelligent men don't ask, "What did the hug mean?" They ask, "What did it feel like for her afterward?" That question keeps you grounded. It keeps you patient. And patience, when paired with awareness, is magnetic. You might also notice something else if you think back carefully. After she hugged you, did she seem lighter, more relaxed, or quieter? Silence after a hug doesn't mean regret. Often, it means integration. Her nervous system was processing closeness. That processing requires space. Men who crowd that space lose ground. Men who respect it gain trust without effort. And here's the truth that changes everything. A woman doesn't need many moments of emotional safety to attach. She needs a few clean ones. Moments where nothing was demanded of her. Moments where she could feel without being pulled. That hug was one of those moments. Whether it becomes the beginning of something deeper depends less on what you do next and more on what you don't do. Don't label it. Don't corner it. Don't try to own it. Let it breathe. Because when a woman feels free inside a connection, she comes back on her own. Not because you pulled her, but because her body remembers peace in your presence. And peace is addictive when it's rare. Now listen carefully, because this is where most men either evolve or repeat the same pattern for years without understanding why. When a woman hugs you first, she's not giving you a role to play. She's revealing how she already experiences you, and that experience is fragile in its early stages. Men are taught to respond to closeness with action. Say something, do something, move it forward. But psychological attraction doesn't grow from action. It grows from attunement, from your ability to stay emotionally present without trying to control the outcome. If she hugged you first, she already felt something. Your job was never to create more. It was to not contaminate what already existed. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The men women feel safest with are often the men who don't immediately try to define the connection. Not because they're distant, but because they're grounded. They don't panic at intimacy. They don't cling to it either. That balance tells her nervous system, I can be close to him without losing myself. That's rare, and rarity creates gravity. You see, women are constantly managing emotional load, expectations, interpretations, reactions. When she hugged you first and you stayed emotionally steady afterward, you reduced that load. Her body relaxed, her mind softened. And when a woman associates you with emotional relief instead of emotional work, she wants to return to that space. This is why chasing clarity often kills momentum. Asking, what are we? Too early doesn't make you honest. It makes you heavy. The hug wasn't a request for definition. It was a moment of presence. Presence is what deepens attraction. Labels come later naturally when safety is established. And if nothing happened after that hug, no texts, no escalation, no confession, don't assume it meant nothing. Some of the strongest emotional bonds form quietly. They grow in the background while life continues. Women often need time to trust what they feel before they act on it. Your silence when it's calm and not resentful gives her that time. Understand this. Attraction doesn't disappear because you didn't act fast enough. It disappears when it feels pressured, misread, or unsafe. If she hugged you first and you honored the moment without grasping at it, you did more right than you realize. And even if that connection never turned into a relationship, it changed how she sees men. You became a reference point, a standard, someone who didn't take, rush, or demand. That matters more than you think. So, here's the question I want you to sit with and answer honestly in the comments. When she hugged you first, did you try to hold on to the moment, or did you allow it to exist without needing more? Your answer reveals how you relate to intimacy itself. If this helped you see something you've missed before, like the video, so more men hear what they were never taught, subscribe if you want psychology explained without games or manipulation, and share this with a friend who keeps saying, I don't understand women, when the truth is he was never shown how to listen without